Leary and where are you? Randy LaRose, the commissioner, in helping out today. The person I'm going to introduce really doesn't need an introduction because he's all over town doing great stuff. But first, I have to do one very, very important thing. I'd like to invite up Kai Olson and Toby Olson for a second. Most of you will know and remember that our former chair, my immediate predecessor, was Mary Olson, who incredibly loved history, did so much to try to make this museum the place it is today and beyond. She had real vision. And like when Debbie was chair with her husband, also always here all the time, Kai and often Toby became part of the team, and we really appreciate that. When Mary passed about a year ago, we wanted to think of a way to honor her, and we established the Mary C. Morrissey Olson Historical Preservation Award to recognize people and institutions that have done something special for history in this town. And last year we awarded that to Dean College for taking care of the cemetery right across the street from Mary's house. And you can pass this to our very kind and helpful historian to your right and maybe read it out loud. Oh, this is in honor of you, Joe.
Me? Wow.
And pretty soon you'll actually be a historical treasure, but right now we treasure you.
Wow. Oh, wow. Franklin Historical Museum presents to Joseph Landry, in recognition of his work as a researcher and historian of the town of Franklin, the Mary C. Morrissey Olson Historical Preservation Award for 2025. Signed, Alan R. Earls.
That's the important part.
Wow, thank you very much. Wow.
Joe now joins Mary and of course Dean on this big plaque which lives out there.
Wow.
Plenty of room for more people to be honored, so get to work.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very nice. Wow. I'm speechless. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I can do the talk now, but I will.
Of course you can.
I will. So, the YMCA in Franklin. Everybody can hear me okay? I think this mic is on. So today we're going to talk.
It's not on.
Oh, it's not on?
You need it on.
Oh, all right. All right, yeah, go ahead and turn it on, Al. Yeah.
Should be good.
Yep, there we go. We can deal with the hum. Okay, can everybody hear me now? Hopefully. Okay. So today we'll talk about the YMCA in Franklin and how a fundraising drive was held so that the new YMCA building could be constructed. And we'll also discuss how it became Excelsior Lodge, the home of the ancient, free, and accepted Masons in Franklin. Now, I love it.
Tells me the hum is really bad. So
Hum's bad? Okay. I'm gonna have to yell? Okay. Well, I'll go out here. All right, let me do this.
you're all supposed to hum along with the hum.
So as I say, I'd like to give recognition to the Franklin Register and the Franklin Sentinel. Those were the first two newspapers in the town of Franklin. Stanley Chilson, I would be nothing without Stanley Chilson. His collection of pictures and films and everything just give us such a wealth of information. I'll be showing a couple of clips from the film collection regarding the YMCA building. Sanborn fire insurance maps. These maps were developed over the years. There was some developed in 1884, 1893, whatever. They show pretty much the downtown area and the buildings, and they show them in really good scale. So that really helped me to understand where buildings were at any given time. And then personal pictures and postcards. A lot of very generous people allowed me to take pictures of their pictures. And so that's been very helpful. And I want to give a shout out to the Hockomock Y. Scott Martin is here and his wife. And today's YMCA, the Hockomock YMCA. Let's see. And the Franklin Historical Museum, usually I say you make sure you go there, but you're already here, so that's great. It's a great place. Alan does a wonderful job. I love the way they just moved all the display cases away and everything, made a nice area. Of course, in another month or so, Scott Mason is going to be putting his railroad dioramas in here and needs all the room he can get. So you should make sure you come see them. That Scott does a really wonderful job of detailing all the railroads, the railroad depot area. The latest one he did was down the Franklin Mill Store area. So make sure you come see them. So the YMCA. Now, when you look at this building, you think, what architect would have designed a building like that? I mean, think about it. I mean, typically buildings are, square or have some shape to them that, okay, but look at that thing. It's like, wow, there was a reason for that. And I'll explain it. Here's a Google Earth. I love Google Earth because it really shows what it looks like today. There's your post office, what was Bay Bank and Bank of America. And then that's where the YMCA was, in that area right there. Dean Avenue, Emmons Street. So here's what happened. I'm going to be showing you a house that was on the corner of Dean Avenue and Main Street in a few minutes. And Harry Haywood bought that house. And in the back of the property was a shed, a garage. And so when he bought the property, the garage was there. That garage was existing. And then when they decided to build the new YMCA, they said, okay, what we'll do is we'll build a gymnasium and we'll connect the garage with the gym with that construction in the middle. And we'll get into more detail about that in a few minutes. But that's basically what happened was. That's why it's such a unique shape, if you will. Here's one of those Sanborn maps that I was telling you about. You can see the Charles Mackenzie house. Charles Mackenzie is the previous owner when Harry Haywood bought it. Charles Mackenzie was the guy that developed where today's Franklin Mill Store is. That was the Mackenzie Mill. Well, he died in 1891, and then Harry Haywood bought it from him. And then in 1903 or so, Mackenzie's widow died, and her estate sold the house to Harry Haywood. So you can see the shed in the back, and I kind of show a little red line showing where the new YMCA would be. But that was the beginning of it right there. That YMCA building brings back a lot of memories for me because, as you can see, 3 houses down, that's where I lived, right on Dean Avenue. That was Dr. Abbott's house. In fact, Dr. Abbott's desk was right there. That was in the house when my parents bought it, and my wife and I donated it to the museum. But anyway, so I can remember walking around the yard and everything, walking through there to go to Emmons Street, and I even got a tour of it one time. Now, Charlie Lawrence at one time a caretaker for that building? Do you know, Randy? Yeah, because somebody. Yeah, right, I knew that. The reason I say that, when I was younger, I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. Now, a guy said, hey, I said to him, boy, I'd love to see the inside of the building. And he said, you want to go in? I said, yeah. So he took me through, and we went through, and I saw the bowling alleys down in the basement. And so that was kind of cool. So I think it was Charlie Lawrence, but I'm not really sure. Yeah, it might have been him, yeah. So that's my memory of that, so. Yeah. Now, I saw this, in all my research, I saw this clipping, and it came from 1895. The clipping says, the Young Men's Christian League have engaged the hall in Spears Block. So I'm not sure if that was, I can't really say that, we can't point to the YMCA's beginning there, I don't think. Because in 1900, that's definitely when the YMCA began. But anyway, I pointed it out for what it's worth. If you're wondering where that Spear Block was, we all remember Jimmy's Ice Cream and Jimmy's Liquors. That's right there. the Spear block was torn down, and that's where the A.J. Cataldo block stands today. That's East Central Street. And that's the town bridge is right there. You can just see the horse trough in the corner there. So that's kind of give you an idea where that picture was taken from. Now this is where the YMCA definitely started. And I'll read to you what it says here. According to this notice in the December of 1900, the YMCA was successfully inaugurated in Franklin when 25 young men met in the music hall of the Metcalf block. There was a music hall up on the second floor before they made offices up there. And that began the process of forming the YMCA. George Knight, the secretary of Hyde Park YMCA, was present, and he delivered an address encouraging the formation of an association. So this detail was taken from the 1888 drawing of the town of Franklin. That's the Metcalf block. Victor Bazzini's store would be in that building that store to the far right. So to give you an idea of what that is. So in November of 1900, rooms were made available in that building. That building was where Franklin Furniture was, and we call it the Morse Block. That's over on East Central Street. And so that's where they made some rooms available up in there. They had a reception room, a social room, a little small gymnasium. Yep. And then in January of 1906, they used some of the rooms in the Buttman building. Now that building's still there today. That's a recent picture. Charles Buttman is the man that developed that building. It was back in the 1800s. That's a separate building from the Metcalf block. But anyway, that's where the YMCA met there. There was it was still small at that time. Now there's that house that was on the corner of Dean Avenue. That's where today's post office is. So Harry Haywood, he had a room at the Crescent House. Now he wasn't married at the time, he was still a bachelor. And he was staying at the Crescent House. Now the Crescent House, right on where the telephone company building is on the corner of Crescent Street, there was a big hotel there that was called the Crescent House, and that's where he was living at that time. So he moved his goods into this house, which he recently purchased from Charles Mackenzie's widow, and he will hereafter be at home to his Franklin friends. So that's back in 1903. He only got married a short time later. And the garage was in the back. Now here's from the drawing of 1888, and we're on Dean Avenue looking towards the center of town. You can see Main Street, you can see Emmons Street, and there's the Haywood garage. And you can if you really look at the shape of it, you can kind of see the shape of that garage as it looked like when you saw the YMCA building. You can see the windows in the front, the dormers, and everything. So that was that garage. Now, obviously, there's a drawing. It was drawn from the ground. I mean, I marvel at the guy that drew this, or whoever drew it, because they didn't have the advantage of being up in the sky looking down like on Google Earth. So they had to do it from the ground and make the drawing that way. And the level of detail was just like, wow. Think about that. And that garage was added in 1887. Now, I'm going to read this. In 1910, the association was established to design and build the YMCA building. In fact, I'll just read it right from here. And it was now owned by Harry Haywood. And the committee got together and said, we really think this building is suitably adapted for the purpose of what we want. And so Harry Haywood said, well, I'll make a deal with you, give you the whole property, the house and the garage at a pretty good price. They said, well, we really don't need the whole property. We just need a piece of land out in the back where the garage is, and that'll be good enough. And that's what they did. So then they formed the committee for a fundraising drive. So Secretary Coburn, Charles Coburn, he was associated with Mr. Ward in most of the great campaigns of building campaigns. So they raised money in other towns and everything. He came to Franklin to direct the organization of a campaign here. And he spent about 2 weeks. And then what they did, they formed 10 teams of 10 men, 100 men. And they were prominent citizens in Franklin. And what they were going to do is they were going to work together. Each team was going to see if they could generate the most money. And their goal, I'll tell you what their goal was in a minute, but so 100 of the most prominent businessmen and professional men of the town were quietly organized into 10 teams of 10 men under the leadership of Charles A.R. Ray. And Dr. C.E. Abbott, he was the local dentist. Dean Chilson was a civil engineer. Floyd Hosey was a businessman. Albert Mason, he was the druggist, Mason Drugs. And Bertram Sherman, I'm pretty sure he was the postmaster at the time. And then what they did, they had this clock. Now, it was really nothing more than a big poster board, I'm sure. And to change the hand, I think somebody would have to go up there and actually physically change it. I'm sure, I mean, that wasn't a real clock. And you can see it was on the building. Remember on Depot Street, the Ray block was there, right where if you went into Fico Shoe Store or Disty's in Taylor, it was that door right there. So they put a large 15-foot clock up there. That clock had been used in Newton, Lawrence, and Wakefield. And it was placed on the Ray block. And it's illuminated and will be wound up tonight, ready for some public-spirited citizen to start it on its $25,000 quest. $25,000, that's what they wanted to raise to make the YMCA building. Of course, the citizens of Franklin will see to it that this clock keeps good time. It should not be allowed to stop even on cold nights. Okay. So look at this, only 5 days later, they had raised $10,985. That's 1910. You know, when you think about it, this is before 1913 when the income tax first came in. So Franklin really didn't have any money to really give to build this building. It had to be with generous people in the community. And that's why they did the fundraiser. So. And a magnificent victory. Just 11 days after the fundraising drive, they raised $30,000. That's $5,000 above their goal. So a splendid civic movement, the interest of which will never cease. Joy bells ring in the churches. So they made a real big deal out of it. So a wonderful victory. So now they've got the money. Let's do it. So the architect that was chosen for the new building was James Ritchie of Boston. He's a man of much experience in his profession, and he has completed an attractive set of plans for the new association building in Franklin. Specifications are now being drawn, and the work will soon open for contractor bids. That's June of 1910. And then the contract was awarded. Out of the 6 bidders, the contract for the construction of the building was awarded to J.A. Monroe of North Attleboro. And his bid came in at $1,200 less than the lowest bidder. So he got the job. The new YMCA building. Now this is November. Work has progressed so far in the new building, it's now possible to see that we're going to have a splendid building. Now, one thing they did, the garage, they raised it up about, well, they say 1 story, but they raised it up somewhat. They built it, the construction it was made out of terracotta blocks upon which they put stucco plaster. And I remember as a kid, I touched the side of it. It was like rocks and everything, little pebbles and everything, kind of like the popcorn ceilings, you have in the house. It was like that. It was rough. And I can think of one other house in fact, it was on Dean Avenue, that had that same finish. The Byzanti house at 49 Dean Avenue. They had the same finish on the house. Yep. And then by October of 1911, the building was pretty much complete. So now they have to furnish it. They needed all kinds of furnishings. So they said, well, let's have another kind of a fundraising drive. Well, we'll say people would like to donate, some different things. Maybe it's like a registry on a wedding registry. If you say, okay, we're going to have a wedding, so what do you want to buy? What do you want to buy? Well, what do these people want to donate? The directors gratefully acknowledged the following gifts for the new building. And it happened that two gentlemen that wished to be anonymous, they volunteered to give a pool table for the game room. And so other people donated, somebody donated a graphonola of the very highest grade. The dormitory rooms have been furnished. I just got an email from my older brother. He said one time he snuck into the building as a kid and went down and played with the pool table. So, yeah. So that's what they did. People donated a lot of things to furnish the building. And there it is upon completion. This is a look at that from the Dean Avenue side. Yeah. Yeah, you can see it again. You can see I'm sure that that probably is the garage door over there. And you can see how they raised it up. And you can see the floor underneath. They probably dug a bit of a cellar and underneath. And that's what they did. Oh, there's the pool table. This is the only picture I could ever get of the inside of the building. I wish I could have seen more pictures of it. They had a couple of bowling alleys down there. I remember when I went through there, the man that showed me the bowling alleys, and some of the pins were still set up, so he took one of the balls and rolled it down and hit the pins. And I'm pretty sure there were duck pins. I don't think we had candle pins back in those days, I don't think.
No.
Yeah, and definitely there was no machines to reset the pins. You had to have somebody down there to reset the pins. And Franklin had so many bowling alleys. You wouldn't really think about that, but there was bowling alleys downtown, underneath the cinema, and then there was all over the place. There was a bowling alley behind where Thunderbird Cleaners was, all over the place. But they weren't as sophisticated as today's bowling alleys, but there were still bowling alleys nonetheless. Unfortunately, that was the Depression, 1938, and times are getting tough, and they had to make a decision. The directors, faced with financial problems, decided if things didn't get better, by June 1st, they're going to have to close up. So unless something comes up to change their decision, they're going to close up on June 1st, and so maybe they'll close up temporarily or maybe permanently. And they made the decision. The directors decided that the community can no longer support the operation. They're going to close the building on June 1st and announced that they have accepted the proposal of Excelsior Lodge of the Masons. They accepted free, the Masons. They voted on their meeting to create in the YMCA their future meeting place. Several committees were elected in addition to trustees to plan for the future. And they said extensive alterations to the interior are planned. So I'm sure they made changes to suit their needs. So. Now here's a few of the Stanley Chilson films that I was able to get. Now they have this rigging, and they're going to put in these big steel girders. Now, look at the size of that girder, huh? And there's a pulley there, and they're hoisting it up. I'm not sure what the girder was for. If it went that way or this way, what was it supporting? I don't know, but there it is. And those windows were all blocked up after when they, when the Masons were done using it. In fact, they had a big, the insignia of the Masons, uh, like the compass thing on that wall. But look at that, it had to have gone this way, but I still can't figure out what they were supporting. Then, in May of '39, they dedicated a new Masonic temple. One thing about Stanley Chilson, I watch a lot of his films, and I love to look in the background. And time after time, you see people looking at him. It's like, you know, they're looking at him, they're smiling, laughing a little bit, like, oh, there he is again. I'm sure that's what they must have been saying. Watch some of the faces. See, look, there he is. See? I know remember the town pool, he was down there a lot, and you can see the kids looking at him, you know, they're all standing around like looking at him, and, what's that guy doing? They're all dressed in their tuxedos and bow ties and everything. Look at the guy up in the doorway. At least they had enough sense to come outside and smoke, not inside. He just started dabbling into color film at this time. So there's a nice color film of the building. You can see they blocked off all those windows. And then they planted some new trees. Yeah, one of the things I remember when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I used to work for, uh, maybe people remember a guy named Duke Yadicinia, who lived across the street from me. He had a store called Vet Med Supply. So as a kid, I worked for him. And in 1965, the post office temporarily moved out of the building and moved into the gymnasium of the Masonic Temple because they're going to expand the post office. They literally doubled the post office in size. So I remember taking packages, and we'd walk in and we'd go around and we'd go inside the gym, and they had the desk all set up. It was a little mini post office for a while. So that's the only other time I went into that building was in the gymnasium. But other than that, I never went in there. But the Masons entertained at Ladies' Night for the first function of Excelsior Lodge. The Distinguished Grand Lodge and district officials attended, and the new Masonic Temple. They had a dinner, entertainment, and a dance. And the ex-postmaster, Carl Carlson, was honored at a reception in recognition of his appointment as the district deputy grand master of the 28th Attleboro district. And then they dedicated the temple at a colorful ceremony in May of 1939. The Grand Master Joseph Earl Perry was there, and a suite of 37 distinguished members of the fraternity were there as honored guests. And it was a concert to feature open house during the afternoon, dinner at 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and an address. So, quite a day. There it is. Yeah, you can see that insignia. They also had one where I was saying. I took this about, I think it was about 2010. I think I came to Franklin, I took some pictures and everything, and that was one of them. But unfortunately, in 2011, there was a big fire. And that's what was left of the building. Yeah. You can imagine my surprise. Now, I used to work up in Bedford. Every morning I'd get in my car, I live in North Attleboro. I'm driving along and listen to traffic on the threes. And traffic on the threes, typically they were talking about traffic on 128, traffic on 95, whatever. And then he comes on and says, you should stay away from the center of Franklin. There's been a big fire. Traffic on the threes is talking about the center of Franklin? What the heck could have happened in Franklin to cause that? And I'm thinking, oh my God, was it the Metcalf block? Was it this? Was it that? It had to be a big fire to be on traffic on the threes. So the next day I went, and sure enough, that's what it was. Wow. You can see the girders that they put in. Wow. What a mess.
I think a terracotta building would gird like that.
I know, yeah. Well, the heat inside must have just been so bad, it just, in fact, well, I'll show you, you got a better picture here. The heat was so bad, look at the Dr. Mercer's old house, just melted. But that's not really unusual. We have some friends in Pawtucket, and they have vinyl siding on their house, and there was a fire really further away than that, and they had damage to their house. So vinyl just, yeah. But anyway, look at it. Ooh. Yep. And the poor gymnasium's all burnt out. What I'm not really sure. No, I don't think. Does anybody know? No. Oh boy. Yep. Now let's look at it from Dean Avenue side. Yep. And there's another one. That's I think from Emmett Street. I think looking. Yeah, Emmett Street. No, actually Emmett Street is this way. Yeah. The Hockomock YMCA in Franklin. Now this I got to read. Okay. Once the YMCA sold their building to the Masons in 1938, the organization went stagnant until 1972, when the North Attleboro YMCA and the Franklin YMCA merged to form a single Young Men's Christian Association. Now, there were two key decisions that were made at that time. The first was to make the Hockomock YMCA a regional one rather than for a single community. The second one was to make the Hockomock Y a family Y with variety of services from birth to the golden years, as opposed to a traditional Y where health, fitness, and recreation are stressed. In September of 1983, the Hockomock Franklin YMCA opened a program center in the Masonic Temple, the same home that they had first called, the same building they had first called home back in over 70 years ago. But after a year at the Masonic Temple, the Y moved to a storefront operation on Cottage Street while once again renting out the space for programs. Does anybody know on Cottage Street where that was? No? I'd be curious. I'm trying, I don't know. And then in early 1988, ground was broken for the Franklin branch of the YMCA on Forge Hill. There were many people who helped make this possible, but two people stood out. They were Lee Robbins and Alan Burnham. Mr. Robbins, he was the president of L.W. Robbins in Franklin, provided invaluable leadership to two Franklin capital campaigns. The other person was Alan Burnham, who was the president of Gorelick Farms. He became the Franklin YMCA's chief benefactor and cheerleader. His family contributed $100,000 to the first capital campaign in memory of their father, Paul. A $50,000 challenge grant was made to the Aquatic Center campaign with a gift of a new tennis court for the Y sandwiched in between. It is for this reason that the Franklin Branch YMCA is named the Burnham Family Branch. Who knows who these two guys are? The same guy. Woody Abbott. Yep. Among the participants in the groundbreaking ceremony was this man. He was Woodrow Woody Abbott, the longtime editor of the Woonsocket Call, who for more than half a century had been known as Mr. YMCA to the people of Franklin. At the ceremony, Woody said that the closing of the original YMCA in 1938 was one of the saddest days of his life, but he was pleased to be able to see the rebirth of a new YMCA 50 years later. He lived on School Street, and you're gonna love this. He lived on School Street, and his license plate was 59690. Now you're probably thinking, how the heck do you remember that? Well, my father was a license plate fanatic, and there were times when we'd go to Rentham to visit my grandparents. We'd be going by the country club. Now, some of us probably remember, if you're going on 140 and you're going just past the country club, there's a rest area right there. And you can actually still see the wall, and the houses are built there. But there was a rest area that had picnic tables and trash barrels. It's like, wow. But we always saw a car parked there, and that plate was 59692. And apparently the guy's name was Steve Carr. And what he used to do is he used to go in the woods and get golf balls because the fairway was right there. So anyway, every time we drive by, my father would say, oh, that's 59692. So that was embedded in my head. So when I saw Woody Abbott's plate, 59690, so that's how I remembered it. But it has nothing to do with the why, but I figured I'd share it. And today, that's what the facility looks like. Anybody got any questions or thoughts? I mean, would you like to say something, Scott?
No, John, the past 13 years, I've been the executive director of the Gordon Family Branch, and this history is incredible.
Oh, thanks.
My staff are always shocked when I say it started in 1900. Most of the people work at the Y are in their 20s.
Yeah.
They may have gone to the swimming lessons themselves or summer camp,
Yeah,
but they don't know how far back it goes.
that's right.
Now to see those from those humble beginnings to the point that there really is a need in Franklin and able to expand. I have that picture where from the late 80s, 90s in my office where it looks like a Cape Cod style house. And now it's 45,000 square feet. And we're told, there's not enough room for all the things we want to do. So, when I look at that, I'm really proud. I know, and I remember here telling me, we're not big enough for all the things we want to do. But I'm really proud. I mean, some of the things that really hit me was how right from the very beginning, people who fundraised and got together to build it. There was no central body of the YMCA coming into this town and setting up this building and financing it. It was the town itself, 10 teams of 10 people. That's the first time I've kind of heard that story.
Yeah.
But when we do fundraising now, we do a similar approach.
Huh.
We have ambassadors and we recruit friends, but
Sure.
to see that, that there were 10 individuals, who really, the YMCA regional folks would come in for 2 weeks and then leave. It really was up to the town to keep
Yep.
it going there, and God bless it. Whatever that run was before the Great Depression, we had 27 years in that building.
Oh, yeah,
That's a good run, and
Yep.
it took the Great Depression.
that's right.
I was at our Franklin Y during COVID, and there were certain times where
Oh.
we lost half our members. In a year and a half, we lost half our members.
Right.
And, but we're lucky we were in a position to come out of COVID stronger than we went in. So
Good.
when I see that, how much it took fundraising to get this off the ground and running.
Yep.
The fact that it did well enough until, things slowed down, and it was the Great Depression that really
Right.
made them kind of hold back on programming. Sold the building, kind of where it was at, the money that they made from the sale of the building, they held on to, and they kind of helped found the Hockomock area YMCA, because North Attleboro, our more recent history, the North Attleboro YMCA was struggling. It was also kind of running into some of its own financial issues.
Right, yeah.
And looked to its neighbors in Franklin that had some funding.
Yep.
And they all made that bet that let's invest some money in North Attleboro, and as soon
Right.
as that has firm footing, Franklin will be again. There will be another building in Franklin.
Good.
And it played out exactly that way.
Yep. Excellent. Yep.
That
When the Y lost half of their members, during COVID, have they gained them all back?
Yeah.
And
Good.
more?
Yeah.
Good. Yes.
Was that original association in early or late 1800s, early 1900s? Was that the first YMCA in America, or
No, just Franklin's. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when the YMCA actually began, but that was the first one in Franklin.
I think the first one in the US was in Boston.
Boston,
Close by.
Oh, was it? Okay. Oh, that's okay. In fact, right on Huntington Avenue, was it?
I think
Yeah. Okay.
Somehow, Joe, I remember, weren't they in the, above the Thunderbird cleaners?
Uh,
One time,
hmm.
for a short time. The
Yeah.
whole store was right next door.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid going over there.
Well, I mean, that building, that was called the Chilson Block. And they did have a hall up on either the second or the third floor. Maybe they met there at some point, maybe?
Mickey and Jeanette Santoro had a dance studio above that.
Okay. Was it Palm Dance Studio?
Well, that was later.
Oh, that was later? Okay.
Sixties when we didn't have it.
Okay. Yeah.
But, yeah, somehow I remember the YMCA being over there.
Yeah, they could have met there,
For
but
a short period of time.
yeah. Because, well, think of it this way. That building was built in 1913, and this one was built in 1910, so they already had their YMCA then.
Max Gorelick owned that building.
He did for a
He
while.
offered it to my father,
Oh, did he? Oh, wow.
$100,000.
$100,000.
1956.
Wow. Phew. Unbelievable.
Joe?
Yes.
A quick question, I may not have caught it, because my hearing isn't like it used to be, but you mentioned the Hayward owned house on the corner of Dean and Main.
Yep.
What happened to that house?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what happened to that house. I'm glad you pointed that out. That house was moved. When they built the post office, they took that house, they moved it from one corner to the corner of Emmons Street. They just moved it over. Yeah. In 19, it was built at, in 19, let's see. Let me think. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when the post office was built in 35, so they moved it at that time. And then when they built the bank, they tore it down at that point. That's what it was, yeah. Yeah, you're right. In fact, I'll tell you another little funny story about that house when it was in its original location. The Ray Block, where Dean Bank is today, that was the first Ray Block. That building was just about ready to be completed. The Franklin National Bank was going to go in there, but they weren't quite ready for it yet. So Joseph Gordon Ray had just brought they brought the assets of the bank to Franklin, but they didn't have a place to put them. So what they did is they put the safe on the porch of that building, and then they cut a hole in the side of the house so they could access the safe from the inside of the house. Yeah, until until it was done. Then they moved the safe over. So, yeah, that house has quite a little history to it. Yeah.
Safes on the street anyway.
The what?
They don't put safes on the street anymore.
Safes on the street?
Yeah, they don't put the safe out front. You know, they tuck it inside the house now.
Oh,
They don't do that anymore.
they don't do that anymore. Okay. I hope not. Wow. So, anybody else, any observations or questions or anything? No?
Fun to stay at that YMCA? Was it fun to stay?
All right, everybody, YMCA. No. We won't make you do that. But I'm sure it was fun. So, okay.
Thank you, Joe, as always. It's always fantastic.
All right. Okay.
Having done some of this stuff, I know how long it takes to ferret out all that information. It's a wonder you don't have glasses this thick from looking at the Sentinel. So thank you. It's fabulous.
Well,
Really amazing.
I think his son, Eamon, wrote a book. It's about this thick. And he did not have the benefit of having the Franklin Sentinel online. He literally had to go to the library, get out the microfilms and everything. And phenomenal, the work he did.
It's called child abuse. Here's switching and let him do it.
But when I saw Facebook and they said, the Franklin Sentinels are now online, I said, oh, wow. So I got online and my wife comes in, she says, aren't you coming to bed? I says, what are you talking about? It's only 2 o'clock in the morning. I was hooked. Oh, man. Okay, okay, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
When are you coming back?
Tomorrow, no.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.